Manipulating lists and debugging in Python. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be looking at how to reverse the vowels in a string. Now this is just purely an exercise to demonstrate how we can use lists, work with lists, and also how we can debug in VS Code. So if that's of interest, keep watching. So there are 5 vowels in the English alphabet: A, E, I, O, and U. So for instance, in the word computer, if we reverse the vowels, we will end up with C-E-M-P-U-T-O-R. Now, to do this with code, first thing we want to be doing is we actually want to make a list of those vowels, A, E, I, O, U. Next, we want to check the given string, see if it contains any of those vowels. Then, this is very important, and this is really the crux of this tutorial. We want to make a copy of the list, and we'll show later on why we need to make a copy. Unless we make a copy, this program will fail. Then the final thing we'll do is we will then go and replace each vowel in the string, so i.e. computer, and then we'll replace each vowel with the last vowel from our list. And then once we've taken it from our list, we'll remove it from the end of our list. So as we keep removing the last vowel, our list will get smaller. Okay, so if you want to see the code, it's on rggh/python on github.com. And here we have list of vowels, A, E, I, O, U. And here are the notes. So the code I've done has used microphones as the string. And this actually proved to be a really good example because it contains 2 vowels the same. So the vowel O appears twice, and that's really important. It actually highlights one of the reasons why you need to use a copy of a list. And I'm going to demonstrate that now. So if you'd like to see some code in VS Code, let's begin. Put in our string. So create a variable called str, and then string will be equal to microphones. This is just going to be our test string. Obviously you can do it with whatever string you want eventually. We're going to create an empty list. This is the empty list to store our list of vowels. So hopefully we will populate that with I, O, O, and E shortly. So then we want to say that our vowels equals A, E, I, O, and U. Right, so then what we're going to do is we're going to say for I in string, if I is in vowels, then we want to, so what we're doing is we're going to look through the word string, and if the letter in the string is also in our list of vowels, then we want to append it to our new list, which we've called LSV. We're going to append whatever that current value is. So if we run that, that should run okay. Yeah, no errors there. So if we print it, let's just do an F string. So print F list of vowels in our string, and then curly braces, and then let's just put in LSV. And if we run that, yeah, there you see I, O, O, and E, which is good. So far, so good. Okay, next, okay, so the best way to do this now is to create a function, and the function will be called reverse vowels. We're not going to pass anything to it. We're actually going to run it we're going to call it, and it's going to operate on the list of vowels and the vowels list that we already have. So what we'll say is we'll say for letter, so we're going to go through each letter in our string. Let's scroll down a bit. And then we're going to say if the current letter, okay, let's just, well, I'll do it this way, and then I'm going to show you why we need to have a second list. So if letter in LSV, so if the letter is on our list of vowels, then we need to create a list to store our answer. So answer equals, back to line 24, we're going to say answer append, and then we'll say LSV. So we're going to go to the end of our list. We need to put -1 there, just to be explicit. Then what we're going to be doing is removing that last value, so we don't use it a second time. So again, we'll just remove LSV square brackets -1. And what that will be doing is it will be deleting, so gradually our list will shrink until we get to the end, and then we will have an empty list. So next we'll say else answer dot append. If it's consonant, we're just going to add that. We're going to add the letter to our list if it's a consonant, and then we're going to return the answer. So that all looks pretty good so far. So we'll create a main function, answer equals reverse vowels. So the answer will be equivalent to the answer gets returned from the function, and then we will print our answer. Let's run this. So zoomed the wrong way. There we go. Right, let's run this code and see what we get. Run Python in terminal. And what have we got? We've got MECROPHONE. So there's no letter I. And this is actually the crux of the problem, or crux of the code. So let's investigate. So we should have had the letter I in our answer, shouldn't we? See this? MECCROPHOENS. And how are we going to fix this? I think we need to use the debugger. So F11, take it off full screen, and let's start debugging. And Python file, we need to tell it it's Python file. And you notice we've got this on the side now. And to customize, run and debug, create a launch JSON file. And I need to point it at the workspace. And I need to tell it we're debugging a Python file. Add configuration. Tell it Python. And if it will let me, save it, close it, get rid of the sidebar, close that, and let's try. So what we want to do is we want to put in a breakpoint. So I'm just going to put in a breakpoint here for letter in string, just to test the debugger with. So start debugging. And here we go. We've got the debugger up and running. So we're down at line 21, and already it's listed our vowels in the string. I should have left a space there. Okay, so I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller because this window here is not really quite so important right now. What's important to us is the list of variables. Collapse the watch points, collapse the call stack. So here we go. This is the interesting bit. We've got, hopefully you can see these. These are kind of a bit of a dark font, but shouldn't really matter. So in fact, just bear with me. I'm going to make it lighter. Okay, hopefully that's a bit better. So what we've got here is the debugging output from line 21. So what it's doing is displaying I. So I is actually S. So we've debugged part of the way through and we're currently on I, and that's S. So we're on the last letter. Let's start again. So variables is empty. We'll go to run. Sorry, not run without debugging. We want to start debugging. So here we go. And if we look at the variables, we need to just expand that. So the globals are basically the lists at the start of our code. So they're not within the function. The locals will be the variables which are inside the function. So if we, first thing we'll do is we'll step into, and then we will keep going, and what we've got is the letter M. So first letter in microphone, and then keep going some more. And what we can see, we've already got a list. We've already got the list of vowels, and if we keep going, what should happen is we should then end up with locals should now go to, yeah, we've got answer already building up with M. So next, for letter in LSV, that should change to I, which you can see it has done here. So run a second letter, and it's appended the last letter. Because it's found the first vowel, which is I, it's appended the last letter of our list to our answer. So far, so good. So if we keep going, and you can see our LSV, our list of vowels, which is our list which we want to keep taking from and gradually reduce down to 0. That's gone down to 3. MEC, R, keep going, O. So far, so good. So keep going. We're on P now. Macro, PH. Yeah, there we go. H. And if we keep, debugger's just gotten too big, so keep going. And yeah, there we go. So what are we expecting? We've just used our O, so that should get removed from the list. We've just seen that get taken off the end of the list. So our last letter should be, in our answer, should be I. If we keep going one more, and it's not, it's E. So we've got a problem. And the problem is because we've not copied the list, and because it's used up all of the list, it's then gone and just put in the remaining letter, which was already in the string. So what we need to do is make a copy of the list. So let's just get rid of that sidebar and get rid of that. So this is the fix, and this is really important. This is the whole, apart from showing you debugging in VSCode, this is actually the whole crux of this video. What we need to do is we need to say that list of vowels, we need to make it a list of vowels 2. And what it actually is to copy a list so that you can have a second list as an independent copy, because otherwise if you don't copy it into a new list, if you have a copy of a list, when you modify it, it will get modified in your copy as well, and you don't want that. So LSV2, your list of vowels 2 is now equal to list LSV. So this is how you copy a list. got the brackets around, the parentheses around it here. So LSV2 is the list that we want to pass. We want to pass it to our function, and we need to pass it here. We're not going to change this because we want to keep depleting our list of vowels. But we don't want, when we're checking through our string, we don't want to be comparing our string against a shrinking list of vowels, because that's what's been happening just now. We were comparing every letter in microphone against that list of vowels, which was shrinking and ultimately became depleted. And that's why we ended up just with the ENS, the E at the end. So I hope I've explained this well. The best way to do it is actually write this code yourself and yeah, debug it as well. So all we've done is we've changed line 18, and that list of vowels, we don't want it to become depleted, so that's why we've made a copy of it. And then we're going to say for letter in the string, if the letter in if the letter in the string is in LSV2, so LSV2 is our list which does not get depleted. Excuse the camera, it keeps dropping a bit. Right, so without further ado, let's run it. And I'm just going to take the breakpoint out. I'll run it and then we'll debug it again, although we won't really need to debug it because it should work. There we have it. So hopefully you can see that at the bottom of the page. MECROPHONIS. So can you see we've got I? So we've got, now we're using our LSV2, which is a copy of our original list, and that's what we are using as our reference list of vowels. Our other list of vowels we're actually depleting as we go, because we want to keep popping the last vowel off the end of the list. So we need to remove the last one from the list to give us the previous. So once we remove the fourth one, which is the E, then we need to go to the O, and then the O, and then the I. So there you see, if in reverse order, we're going E, O, O, and then I. So we're gradually shrinking our list, so we're taking off the fourth, then the third, then the second, then the first, and then we're ending up with an empty list. But we don't want to have an empty list for our reference list. Hopefully that's explained. If not, then probably the best thing to do is actually copy this code, or even attempt to solve the problem on your own and debug it. So just to show you the debugger now, if we start debugging, and if I just if I go view and run and then start debugging, and it's not going to do anything because I took out the breakpoint. So let's just put a breakpoint back in there on line 22 and run it. So hopefully, if you've not seen the debugger in VS Code, especially in VS Code in Linux before, yeah, hopefully this is just a bonus as well. So let's start debugging. And we have gone down to line 22. So we've already got a list of vowels, I, O, O, E. And then if we step, we want to step into the function. So there we go, letter M. So because it says globals, these are all of the values that are outside of the function. And if we keep going, and the local, the reason why it's local, why we've got locals and globals, locals are the variables that are within the function, so they will expire when the function ends. So the thing to keep your answer, the variable to keep your eye on is actually the answer, just here, MECROPHONIS. And this before, because our list was depleting before, we actually ran out of vowels, so that's why we were getting the ES. But here, as you can see, LSV is now down to I, and previously that would not have shown up in our list, but because we've got our LSV2, which is our complete list of vowels still. It's not been eroded. There we go. So hopefully you've had a good look at using the debugger in VS Code with Python. If you've not seen it or used it before, then hopefully you can go back and see how I did it earlier in the video. And yeah, you've also seen the difference between local variables and global variables. The local variables are the ones that happen inside the function. The globals are the ones outside the function. We've looked at copying a list so that we can have a list for a reference, and then we can have a list which we actually deplete. So any questions, drop me a line, thumbs up, and I'll be back soon with something else. Thanks for watching.